Hey guys, this is Aziz and it is Tech Time, and today we are going to be doing our second tutorial in Java programming with the Eclipse IDE in mind, and we're going to be introducing variables this time. What we did with C++ was variables and input at the same time, but this time I'm going to take it slow and show you how to use variables. So let's go ahead and open our Eclipse IDE, and you can download this from Googling Eclipse. You can see it there. I'm going to go ahead and default this, press OK. So we see our programs here on the left, so let's go ahead and make a new one. Go to File like before, go to New, and then go to Java Project, and let's make a project. We're going to call it Variables right here, and we're going to be doing Finish. So after we click Finish, we will see our project here. But I have a file from before, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it that I've made from previous time. So on source, right click, add, and class, and then go ahead and type the class name, and we're going to just call it main, and make sure that you check public static void main because we need that. So go ahead and finish, and here is our class file. So I'm going to go ahead and format everything to my liking, and then we're going to start with the program. So let's go ahead and delete this, and just like we did with the previous C++ class, we're going to do start with the variables that are numbers. So number variables. So what are variables? Variables technically are a piece in the memory. You don't need to worry about that too much, but basically int stands for an integer. So I'm just going to go ahead and comment in here saying, well, I'm not going to comment just yet. I'm just going to type integer and then comment back when I'm done, just to make sure I'm clarifying things for you, I'm not confusing you. So the first one is integer. What we're going to do is name one of them as num, and num is going to be the appropriate way of how you should initialize a number. But before initializing, what is really initializing? So you make an integer object. Integer is any number, basically, from negative to positive. So all the numbers are integers. So int, and we're going to give it a name, in this case num, and just put a semicolon. That's it. That's all you need to do. Now you've made a variable in the memory. Now you have something in the memory. So how do I display it? Well, let's go ahead and type system dot out dot print line, and then put num in here, and then semicolon. That's all you need to do. But there is a squirrely line under it, and it says the local variable num may not have been initialized. What does it mean by initializing? Well, you can do a quick fix and click on initialize right here, and it will equal it to 0. This is the appropriate way of initializing a variable, basically giving it an initial value. That's all it means. So when you have I'm going to go on a bad example. When you have a newborn baby, nobody can call it any name, so you don't know what you're calling. Now in this program, the same way, I don't know what I'm going to display. You're giving me something that has no initial value in it. So when you have a baby, you have to give it a name so you know which baby you are calling to. In this case, a num variable has to have a value inside it, and in this case it is a 0. The reason we choose 0, because 0 is an initial value, and as humans we count from 0 and up, so it sounds like a good number. You could initialize it to -1, you can initialize it to 1,000,000, you can initialize it to any number you like, and actually it's between 2.5 million to -2.5 million, I believe, but we're initializing it to 0. Now I will also show you, what if I want another int like num1? What if I want another one? Do I just keep doing that? Well, no, you don't have to. You could, but you don't have to. The better way is to add a comma and then go ahead and give it another name, give another variable. This is a new one, so this is separate from this. These are two completely different variables, and you have to initialize it, otherwise you'll see this yellow squirrely mark and you'll see this fix. So go ahead and initialize it. We can also initialize it to 1 and give it that number, and then we have num2 equal another number, and so on. You could have 3. So I'm just gonna do 3 just to make sure that you understand the example. So there it is. We have now 3 variables, 3 names, everything is good, and let's see what it's complaining about. I think it's just a random error that it's complaining about. There's no need for you to remove them. You could remove them, but you don't have to. So in this case, we're doing let's go and see it. Okay, so it's just complaining about the naming convention because this is num and num1. We don't have to worry about that. The naming convention, again, is you can name it num, or you can name it all capitals, but you don't want to do that. We follow the camel case, where we start with a lower letter and the next word will have to be a big letter. This is the best way of initializing these variables. So what other numbers are there other than int? Well, before we go to the next one, let's go ahead and print int. Let's go ahead and run our program, and we will see that it prints 0. That's interesting. What if I wanted to print, say, the other one? So system.out.println and then num1. What happens when I say num1? It will print 1, and when we run it, here we see num1. So that's it. That's all we need to do. And what if I want to have a variable with a period in the middle? So a number, basically. Double is the variable type, and the variable name we're going to give it is dnum. This is the camel case. Small letter and then capital letter for the next word, first letter, and then the rest is small letters. So dnum also has to be initialized. What is the best initializing value is 0.0. That indicates that it's a double. Let's make like the rest, dnum1 equal to, you could also make it 0 only. You could also make it to, let's say, to 1.0. That's another way of making it. In this case, I'm just going to name it 2. And then dnum3, you could also make it 3.5. So there's all of these options that you could name it and initialize that way. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to do a print and then print again, and I'm going to print all the values for you. So system.out.print and then num2, and I'm just going to do plus and a comma in between them, just so we have commas and that separate the code. So you could have concatenation in here in the string, which is saying give me the num, this value, plus give me this string, and then a space after it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I hope this does not confuse you in any way. If you are confused about it, just ask me a question and I will gladly help you with it. The last one, we want to print line. So num3 plus comma, or no comma in this case, just that. So it will print a line in this case, and then we're going to press enter, and here we go, 0, 1, 2, 3. So what we're going to do now is copy this and then just paste it in here and say dnum1, dnum1, dnum, and dnum2, and dnum3, which means double numbers. So enter, run the program. Here we see dnum is 0.0, here it is, and then dnum1 is 0.0 as well. Even though you initialize it to 0, it is a double value, so it has to have a period in there, and it actually initializes it to 0.0. The other one is dnum2, and that is a 2.2, and here it is. And there's dnum3, 3.5, and here it is. So you can initialize however you want. Now, what if I want also a double value with a period in between, but a less one that uses less memory. So the int, I believe, I'm not sure how much memory it uses, 2 or 4, but the double uses a lot more. And the float, here's another value. You don't have to use it, but it's good for the memory. It uses less space in the memory than double. Almost, I believe it is the same as int, which is very good. So we're going to fnum, and the way to initialize this value is by doing 0.0f. You could also do fnum1 equals 0f. The f to indicate that it is a float. Otherwise, what happens is with 0.0, it's actually 0.000000, many zeros behind. But when you tell it f, it actually says 0.0 and nothing more than that, not a number more than that in the memory. So that's why it uses less memory. In this case, 0f, and you have to indicate the f, otherwise it will use it like a double. fnum3, and that I believe depends on the language, so I don't want to give you any false information, so maybe depending on the value. 2.0f is possible. fnum3 3 equal 3.5f is also possible. So let's go ahead and print them. Let's copy paste this and go ahead and put these in here. Let's go ahead and run it, and here we go. Here's our information. So how do I check these values and how they're printing? Well, good question. We're gonna go ahead and step through them one by one through debugging, and let's go ahead and you can right click on the numbers here, right click on it, and then toggle breakpoint right here. It will add it in here, or you can double click here. Either way, it will add a toggle point. So right click, toggle point, breakpoint. So then go ahead and press on the spider here, the debug, click it, and this is what's gonna happen. We can see our code here. If you see a dialog, just press OK on it, and we can see all of our values right here. If you never give a value to a variable, it won't show up in here. It refuses to, and you can't even print it, and it will not allow you to print it. So we see 0, and then the rest of them are acting the same way. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem that Java acts the same way as Visual Studio, where it allows me to see the actual value of a number. So all I can see that doubles are the same as floats. So I'm gonna go ahead and step through it really quickly just by doing this, and then you can see in the inside here how it's going on. It prints this value, then it prints this comma or whatever is in between the string, so it prints these two characters. So go ahead and step through it, and here it is going up one by one. So I'm gonna close it and be done with it, and then I'm gonna go to the top right and then go to Java. So now we're back again to Java and add more variables. So let's see what other variables we have. We have also characters and strings, so things that are not numbers. So basically letters, let's say letter variables, there we go. And letter variables start from character. Char is character, so we are going to do the same thing as we did before. Letter equal, the correct way of doing this is you can do it through this is end of line. You can do it through //0 or /0 in some languages, but in this case, let's see, it allows you to do /0. This is the best way, and so let's go ahead and try it. I have not used it myself, but I've seen it being used as a good practice. You could also initialize it to space, which is what I've done before, but /0 adds nothing inside this area, which is better. So let's go ahead and do letter 1. You could also initialize it to be a letter like A or 1. You could also initialize it to be letter 1 or letter 2 equal a character like C, or letter 3 equal to just a space. That's it. But you have to add one character. You can't add two characters. That's not allowed. You cannot add no characters. You can add one character and one character alone. Let's go ahead and do our strings as well. So string doesn't work out, unfortunately, the same way as C# or C++, where you can add small letter string. You have to add capital letter S and then string, the rest of it string. So let's go ahead and say word equal. Word could equal to this, nothing, but you can add double quotes and then no characters inside, and that's fine. That's a good way of doing it. So let's go to add word 1 equal, you can make it say hello, and you could make it another one saying word 2 equal world. That's fine as well. You can word 3 equal to not sure what else to add in here, so I'm just gonna say hi. That's it. I believe there might be a string dot empty. There isn't one in here. Unfortunately, in Java and C# you can do that, but in Java you cannot. So let's go ahead and copy paste these. So let me copy paste some of this and then print it here. So I'm not going to do anything special. I'm just going to copy the variable names like letter and just paste it in here. So you can do that on your own and fast forward the video if you'd like. Just going to do that. Okay, now that we are done, let's go ahead and see how that comes out to how does it look. We're gonna go ahead and run it, and here we go. So it printed out nothing. Nothing is an icon in this case. It printed out 1, it printed out C, and it printed out actually a space that you cannot see here because it's a space. There it is, there's a space, and then it is here. So maybe you can swap it out to say here there's a space, and here there's a C, and run it again to show you, and here's the space now again, and here's our C. The next one, there's nothing in here, so it printed nothing, comma, hello, comma, world, comma, hi, and the period that's in here in this word, and then end of line in here, and that's it. So it's all very simple. If we stop here in this line, so right click, toggle point, and then let's go ahead and remove our point from here. Toggle point again. So make sure to remove the point that's in here and add one in here, or just follow me. I'm gonna go ahead and debug main, and I'm gonna stop at letter. What is inside letter? Inside letter there is nothing. If you look through the letters right here, you can notice there's nothing, absolutely nothing. This one may have a space inside it. See that? I can highlight, I can go left to right. Letter actually has nothing inside it. So that's how we know this is the correct way of doing it. I'm sorry about that error, it's just something it's complaining about. So I'm going to go ahead and close it because we don't need to see that. I'm going to go back to Java. I'm going to go ahead and remove this toggle point. So to go back again, this is the best way of initializing this variable. We have one more variable that we have not covered, which is bool. Bool in C++ is boolean, and boolean, it is boolean in Java. You have to spell out the whole word, and the reason for that is, I believe, is because it's after the guy that found boolean. His last name, I believe, is boolean. Boolean is very simple. So we're gonna say bool equal. What is bool equal to? It's equal to either true or false, or maybe you can do it this way. I'm not sure how Java will handle it, but I don't think it accepts it, and it doesn't seem to be accepting it. So let's go and see how it handles it. Yep, it doesn't accept that. So let's see if it prints it. System.out.println bool. In some languages it defaults it to false, but in this case it won't, and it has to ask you to default it to false. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that, and here it is. You have to say bool equal to false. That's the best way of initializing it. Now, how does bool really work? So bool 1, I'm gonna say equal to 1. Is that okay? In this case it is not, but in the code behind it's actually 1. Bool only has true and false in 2 states. The computer works in 0 and 1. False is actually 0, no power. True is actually 1, and that means there's power. So how are we going to print it? Let's see if Java accepts Boolean as a print thing. So print, we're going to say bool, and it does accept it as a print thing and as a print type. Bool is the only one where we're gonna say it's fine to keep it this way without having to print 4 of them. So this is print line, so we can end here. And let's go ahead and run it. And here we have false and true. So I'm gonna debug it and right click and toggle breakpoint to show you what's going on in the code behind. I'm gonna run it and let's go see where is our Boolean. Here's our Boolean, but it says true and false, but in the code behind really it is actually just 1 and 0, and we can stop on top of it, but it won't let us see it just like Visual Studio does. So it's just gonna print it as true and false, and we're gonna go ahead and stop the program here because there's no need for us to dig anymore into this. So to summarize again, int is an integer, and that is any number from negative to 0 to positive. Double is the same way as integer, except that it has a period in between, so it accepts these kind of values. Float is the same way as double, except that it uses less memory by using the letter F after it. The letter variables, or basically characters, there is char, or character. It accepts characters of 1 character only. The reason I do slash is because it's finding in the system there is nothing. This is the best way of defaulting a value, and all of these show you how best to default a value to initialize it basically. There's other ways of doing it, and I've explained all of that in here. There's a string, and string in behind is actually a character array, a list of characters. To be honest, it's not just it's not a word really, but you don't see that in here. We initialize it by doing this. Boolean, there is true and false, and initialize it by doing false is the best way. There are no other variables that we need to cover right now. This is all of them. These are all the prints in them. This example is very simple. You shouldn't have any problems with it. If you do have any problems, please go ahead and ask me, and I will be happily help you. And please go ahead and like and subscribe and favorite if you could. And I'll be putting this code on indiedevelopment.co for your viewing, and you could also download the code from our site. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.